Hi guys, this video was gone viral few days back. The video highlights the pathetic situation of our road in our country. There are a lot of accidents currently in our country due to the larger number of potholes in the roads, and that becomes more vulnerable when the time of rainy. Look at the pathetic situation of the man who fell into the pothole. Usually, the senior citizens and the differently able persons are the more vulnerable to this. So we already pay tax like road tax, and above all we pay cess everything in maintaining this public infrastructure. But this is what the situation. So people should be more aware about the situation around us and should be more aware at the time of elections when they will give with false promises. So on this backdrop, I invite you for today's discussion dated 12th August 2022. Welcome to VLN IA's editorial discussion. So let's start the discussion. Okay, let's look into what is the first news for today's discussion. So the first news is about Supreme Court's decision of going against derecognizing political parties over the issue of freebies. 2 days ago also we discussed about the issue of freebies, which is how influencing the people over or manipulating the decision of people over the elections. So there was a petition of asking for derecognizing parties who are giving freebies at the time of election, but Supreme Court had gone against this in recognizing political parties. So according to Supreme Court, the derecognition of party is an undemocratic thing. So formation of political parties or formation of political alliance is a democratic process. Supreme Court has nothing to do with derecognizing political parties. No statute is giving power for them. So it is an undemocratic practice, and Supreme Court is going against this decision of derecognizing political parties. So this issue is in highlighted in news for the past few days. So the issue is very important in respect to exam. Mainly it falls under the syllabus topic of Governance and Representation of People Act. So this all was for that news. Now let's look at the next news for today's discussion. So next news is about the new Vice President. Jagdeep Dhankhar was sworn in as the 14th Vice President of India at a brief or ceremony at Rashtrapati Bhavan. So President Draupadi Murmu administered the oath of office. So who administers the oath of office to Vice President? It is President. Okay. So now let's look into what are the important constitutional provisions regarding the office of Vice President. Article 63 of our Constitution gives the position of or declares that there shall be a Vice President of India. And this next article, Article 64, defines him as ex officio chairman of Council of State. That means he has a position or virtue to the position of Vice President, he becomes an ex officio chairman of Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha. Then comes the next article, Article 65. The Vice President to act as President or to discharge his functions during casual vacancies in his office. That means when there is a casual vacancy in the office of President, this Vice President can act as President at that time. Then comes Article 66. Article 66 talks about election of Vice President. And Article 67, and which deals with term of office of Vice President. Okay, these are some of important articles regarding the office of Vice President. Also, there are several other articles like Article 68. It helps of holding election to fill the vacancy of office of Vice President. And Article 69 gives the oath of affirmation for Vice President. Article 70. Discharge of President's function in other contingencies. That means in certain contingent situation whether the President is not able to fulfill his duties, this Vice President can act on that office. Article 71. Matters relating to or connected with the election of President or Vice President. Article 72. Power of President to grant pardon, etc. and suspend commute in certain cases. 73. Extent of executive power of the Union. So these are important articles related to both President and Vice President. Okay. So this was what we discussed earlier, important article relating to Vice President. Okay. So let's look into the procedure aspect of the election of Vice President. The first article that gains significance on this background is Article 324, which reads that the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Act of 1952 and the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Rules of 1974 gives the power of superintendent's direction and control of conduct of election to Election Commission of India. So who conducts the election to these constitutional posts? It is Election Commission of India. This topic itself is important because there's clearly defined in the syllabus of appointment to constitutional position. So what is the procedure again to the election of vice president? A notification is issued on or before the 16th day of expiration time of the outgoing vice president. That means currently Venkaiah Naidu is going to expire from the post of vice president. So an notification for election is given 16th day before the expiry of current vice president. So let's look into further articles related to this constitutional position. Article 66 of the Constitution says that a vice president is elected by electoral college. So what is the composition of that electoral college? It consists of elected members of Rajya Sabha, nominated members of Rajya Sabha, elected members of Lok Sabha. That means the electoral college consists of elected members of both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Okay. At the same time, nominated members of Rajya Sabha. So these are the main composition of electoral college for office of vice president. So what is the eligibility for the term of the office? So here Article 66 clause 3 gives the eligibility of the office of vice president of India. According to this article, he shall be a citizen of India and has completed an age of 35 years and is qualified as election as a member of Council of States. That means Rajya Sabha. So he should be qualified as a member of Council of States and should have an age of 35 years. Again another article, Article 66 clause 4 also gives an eligibility criteria. The person shall not be eligible for election of vice president if he holds any office of profit. Okay, and the government under government of India or any other local government. So it is a negative aspect. It gives on what condition he can't be on that constitutional position. And again, Article 67 lays down qualification for election of Vice President of India. A Vice President shall hold the office term for only 5 years from the date he enters. So after the expiration of his term and continue to hold the office until the successor enters up to his office. So he did not gives a vacant to the office. He continues in the office until the next elected one assumes the office. Okay. So now let us look into key aspect of dispute in the election. So Article 71 states about the disputes. All doubt and disputes arising of the connection with election of president and vice president is decided by Supreme Court, whose decision is final. So the Supreme Court has the full authority over the dispute and its decision is final. While the Parliament may by law regulate any matter related connected with election of president or vice president. At the same time, Parliament has the power to regulate the election procedure. Okay, now let's look into the next news for today's discussion. So next news is regarding a boundary dispute problem between two states in northeast. One is Assam and other is Arunachal Pradesh. The news says that 86 disputed villages are along the border of 804 km between these two states. So let's look into this Assam Arunachal Pradesh dispute. So Assam shares around 804 km of interstate boundary with Arunachal Pradesh. The Arunachal Pradesh, which was created in 1987, claims that some land that traditionally belonged to its residents has been given to Assam. So Arunachal Pradesh is claiming that traditionally their indigenous settlement people had right in the land of Assam. So a tripartite committee had recommended that certain territories have to be transferred from Assam to Arunachal Pradesh. The two states since has been battling around this issue over the court. So the issue is currently under the judicial scrutiny. So now let's look in more analyze about why such disputes occur in India. First and foremost reason is linguistic reorganization of state. The State Reorganization Commission, which was formed after post-independence, divided the boundaries of the states based on their administrative convenience. As for that, they took the idea of one language, one state criteria. At the same time, they didn't look into the cultural aspect, especially in northeast, where the people having a certain culture is spread over vast eastern region. Example is the demand for Naga live in northeast, where Nagas live within vast territory in northeast. Next is geographical complexity. Since in northeast the terrain is very complex, for example rivers, hills and forests, many places and boundaries cannot be physically mapped up. So this physical demarcation becomes very difficult. And indigenous communities. Indigenous communities were for the most part were left alone because boundaries would be drawn for administrative convenience when the need arose. That's what I said, that the cultural aspect was not taken consideration during the boundary reorganization. So this became a major issue for boundary dispute. So what is the way forward? So first and foremost is by demarcating the boundaries by using of satellite mapping, which help in much more by actual boundary location. Now revitalizing the constitutional institution like interstate council, which help in the which help in having a conversation with various stakeholders and arriving at a consensus agreement. The Article 260 of the Constitution gives up for the interstate council for uh, having a more cooperative federalism. And also another institution of the same mandate is that zonal council. It also related to social and economic planning and industrial transport. So both help in cooperative federalism. So this is a map of Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. So this Assam, which is the largest state in northeast, shares boundary with 6 states in northeast. For example, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, and Arunachal Pradesh. So this map gives us as the backdrop of the boundary dispute that is occurring in India. The first one is Ladakh and Himachal Pradesh. There is a boundary dispute over here. Then Haryana and Himachal Pradesh boundary dispute is there. Assam, Nagaland, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Mizoram, and Assam, Meghalaya. So Assam is a hotspot of boundary dispute in northeast. And another one is in the southeast, Karnataka and Maharashtra. There is also a dispute over there, especially on the language speaking people. So this is an important map when in the exam, when the topic of regionalism comes into picture, or when a question is asked how geography influences such questions, these maps can be it will be a value addition. So on this aspect, they just look into a previous year question. So this was a question that was asked of state capital of Andhra Pradesh when it was formed in 1953. Actually, this question was asked mainly because at that time there was bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh to Telangana and Andhra. So it was the news in that time. So the answer is Kurnool. Okay. This is the explanation of the background why how the Andhra Pradesh state has been. We will discuss more it in the post-independence discussion, where Potti Sri Ramalu took into fast to death, and after that it was recognized to form states based on their native language. So State Reorganization Commission was formed, and Kurnool was the capital when Andhra Pradesh was formed in 1956. So now let's look into the next news for today's discussion. So next news for today's discussion is about Bhima Loregaon case. So it is in news for quite few days, and it was in news for quite few years. So let's look into what actually the issue is. So let's look into the historical background of what this news is. So in 1818, a battle was fought in Bhima Loregaon, which is a place in Maharashtra, between whom? Between Peshwa forces and British forces. In this battle, this British army was supported by Dalit soldiers, and they fought against the upper caste Peshwa army. Why such an battle between these two different castes occurred? This is because the administrative rule of Baji Rao discriminated these Dalits in the army, especially the Mahar community. As a result, this Mahar community joined with this English and fought against the numerically superior Peshwa army. And what happened in the end result of the war? In the end of the war, this British army, which consists of the Dalit community, won the battle against Peshwa. And this battle was part of Third Anglo-Maratha War. Why this issue becomes more significant? Because Baba Sahib Ambedkar visited the memorial of this war battle in 1927. As a result of which, this war memorial is a significant or hallmark for the victory of lower caste against upper caste in Maharashtra. So every year there will be a gathering in this place, and it will made it turn to be a place for rift between these two communities. So this is a famous Bhima Loregaon victory pillar in Maharashtra. Okay. Okay, this is all for that news. Now let's look into the next news for today's discussion. So next news is about Criminal Procedure Identification Act 2022. So what is it, and several other aspects of that. Okay. So before the introduction of Criminal Procedure Identification Act, the act which was in force was Identification of Prisoners Act of 1920. And we will look into the differences between current act and previous act. So what are the main relevant provisions in which this difference occurs? First is the persons whose measurement can be taken, or persons whose measurement can be taken on both these acts. In Identification of Prisoner Act, it should be convicted of an offence punishable with the rigorous imprisonment of 1 year and upwards. So it gives good criteria for the person whose identification should be taken. At the same time, it is a vague definition here. If convicted of an offence punishable under any law, so it does not give what type of punishment or what extent of punishment is there. So it is very vague on that. Now there is measurement that can be taken. So in the previous act, these are the following measurements that can be taken, like finger impression, foot impression, photographs, etc. But the current act gives an elaborate measurements that can be taken, and destruction of the measurements. So what happens if the person is acquitted, if not previously convicted of the offence, with the rigorous imprisonment or upwards? So in case of acquittal, this destruction of offence of the measurements will be there. At the same time, the same provision is not there in the current act, and it retains this measurement for 70 years of collection. Okay, this is the backdrop of the current bill, and comparison between the two bills. So why this bill gives more significance? First and foremost is that it is making use of the modern techniques. So the current bill help in making use of modern techniques and record appropriate body measurements. The existing law, the Identification of Prisoners Act, dated in 1920, allowed taking only fingerprint and footprint. And next is it help in investigation agencies. So it helps more in the criminal justice. So it helps more in criminal justice, which help a police person in collecting evidences against these offences. So, and the third is that making the investigation agencies more crime efficient. So the increased application of technology will further enhance the efficiency. Okay. So what are the issues? So first and foremost argument that the bill was beyond the legislative competence of the parliament, as it violated fundamental rights of citizens, including right to privacy. So first and foremost, that this bill is violating the right to privacy of citizens, which is guaranteed by the Constitution itself under Article 21 of the Constitution. Okay. And next fundamental right that it is violating is Article 20 Clause 3 of the Constitution, mainly because of the implied use of force in collection of information like narco analysis and brain mapping. So what this Article 20 Clause 3 says that no person accused of an offence shall be compelled to be witness against himself. That means if a person who is accused that he is accused of a case by a police, he cannot be compelled to give evidences against him. He cannot be compelled to give evidences against him. Also, the implied use of force in Clause 6.1 of to take measurements violates the right of prisoners laid down in by Supreme Court judgment, beginning with the A.K. Gopalan case and further moving up to Pramod Saxena case in 2008. That means the implied use of force in gaining evidence is against Supreme Court judgment the following cases like A.K. Gopalan, Pramod Kumar Saxena case, etc. So on this background, let's look into previous year question. And first, an important question on that aspect is right to privacy. So it is guaranteed by the Constitution under which article? Article 21 of the Constitution. So it was guaranteed by Supreme Court in Article 21 of the Constitution in the famous Puttaswamy judgment of Union of India case in 2017, where right to privacy is considered fundamental right by Supreme Court. The right to privacy is protected as an intrinsic part of right to life, which is guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution as a part of freedom of guaranteed by Part 3 of Indian Constitution. Okay. So this is all about today's discussion. Hope you enjoyed it. Please kindly subscribe to our channel for future updates. Thank you.